Well, thank you, Gene Lindgren, for having this conversation with us today. We're really happy that you were able to join us. And before I let you speak, I wanted to start off by saying I think people can see right away that you have the logo of the Laredo Economic Development Corporation as a background. And I love to see if we can start this conversation by telling our audience what the Laredo EDC is, a little bit more about Laredo for the folks who've never been able to visit. Hopefully, they will be able to soon, and what it is that you do at the Laredo EDC.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Jennifer. Yeah, this is Gene Lindgren, President CEO of the Laredo EDC. I think most people in the economic development world understand what an EDO is, but I'll take 1 second and explain that. The Laredo Economic Development Corporation, who recently rebranded within the last 2 years the name of the organization from the Laredo Development Foundation. It has a 54-year history in our community. Our sole purpose is to attract and develop and encourage expansion of business to create living wage jobs and an investment in our community. So it has a indirect and induced impact on everything in the community, from residential to commercial to education to the tax base, the quality of life. And so that's what EDOs or EDCs do. We are a nonprofit organization that gets funded from various sources, public and private. We have a membership that's representative of a cross section of industry leaders, uh, organizations, civic and industrial organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, representatives from the city, the county, elected and professional employees of the government agencies. And so that's what EDCs do, and that's what we do. We continue to promote Laredo as a place to do business. For those in the country, in the world that's not familiar with Laredo, Texas, we are a powerhouse of trade, international trade. Our main trading partner is Mexico. We've been trading with Mexico for over 100 years, and it has exploded in the last 40 years with NAFTA and now USMCA. Um, and you can see in my background picture the two bridges that cross the Rio Grande, and then a little further in the background, it's hard to see, is the rail bridge. A little further upstream is the World Trade Bridge. Our port is the #1 land port of international trade in the United States. Um, and if you add up all of the international trade that takes place from the entire US Mexico border, from the Gulf of Mexico, where Brownsville is, all the way to San Diego, if you add up all of the trade that goes across the bridges, uh, it does not equal the amount of trade that goes through Laredo. We are at the start of international of US Highway 35. In fact, our operation has a division called Mile One. It's our incubator, our international business uh, assistance center. And we call it Mile One because it literally is on really mile zero uh, for the rest of the United States. So we help companies and entrepreneurs grow their business from a home office or a garage into an actual business. We mentor them and support them with a network of experts and co-workers so they can graduate to an office, a warehouse, a manufacturing facility. And it supports Mexican companies that want to break into the United States and US companies that want to break into Mexico, inventors, entrepreneurs of all sizes and shapes. And it's in a downtown renovated facility that's truly a gem. It's a division of our organization.
I love how you mentioned, well, number one, main trading partner, Mexico. And I always love telling people when I have the opportunity that when I was still in college, I got the opportunity to work in Laredo, Texas, and in a warehousing company and just be a part of all that movement between both countries. And it's amazing. But I also got the chance to discover the community in Laredo, which, it's not only trade, it's just so much more. And I know you and I have talked about this, but I would love, like, for somebody out here or somebody somewhere else who has never been there, who maybe thinks about the border in, certain terms of, like, I see so many stereotypes, I'm a bit scared to go to the border. What would you tell these people, because obviously the trade factor is very important, but as a community or just as a border city, what would you say are the highlights of being there versus the stereotypes?
Well, one thing about Laredo that I love, and I came here in the 90s through a relocation from an industry company that I worked for 35 years. And I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with my wife,
Very
now
important.
25 years. She was from Mexico, but working in Nuevo Laredo, and I was working in a maquiladora also. So I learned Spanish, and I really appreciated the culture here on the border. It's not quite Mexican. It's not quite Texas. It's somewhere in between, but it has the best of both worlds. The river that you can see there is really just that. Once we get through the pandemic and the non-essential travel opens back up, we'll go back to normal where we have friends and coworkers and family, business partners, and it's just crossing the bridge. Just as if you go from one city to the next, from Dallas to Fort Worth, from Austin to San Antonio, it's it's uh, it's really one city in two countries, and it truly is a place to fall in love with. It's safe. The food and the culture and the camaraderie is just makes you feel really good. It's my adopted home, and I'm not from here, but I certainly love to talk about it. And like I said, I relocated here. It was a temporary transfer after 4 years, and I moved back to Ohio, where I'm from. But I found a way to come back, and I'm here to stay. I'm so happy that I'm able to help the community, the city, the county, and really Los Dos Laredos, I call it. It's both sides of the border to to continue to evolve and improve our quality of life through good jobs and investment. Um, and so I'm going to continue to talk about how Laredo is a great place to be. It's a medium-sized city now. We're approaching 300,000. Um, and so traffic is starting to, people complain about it, but you can still get from one side of the city to the next in 15 minutes. And everybody knows each other, and everybody works towards the same goal. Yeah, we have our differences, but in the end, we can call up the mayor, the city manager, our city councilman, the CEOs of banks, the leaders of the chamber and the trade organizations. We're all on speed dial on each other's phones, and when we need something, we get it done.
And that's what I also really liked when I was down there, this spirit of friendliness. And that's where I got my first glimpse as a young adult of business life. And going back to business, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Laredo is the place within the US and Mexico where most of the trade between both countries actually goes through. Now, being such an important place for business for both Texas, the US, and Mexico, of course, we can talk about how COVID-19 has impacted business. It's impacted all our lives. However, I want to ask you about a little bit of a different perspective. Every crisis is an opportunity, some people say. I wanted to ask you, what new business opportunities are you sensing in this new business climate that we have throughout the world now? And what do you see Laredo being able to do in this new business climate?
Oh, great question. Our roots, our bread and butter is international trade, warehousing, distribution centers, transportation, logistics, supply chain. But one of the recent trends that I think the pandemic accelerated was food products, produce, perishables is what the professionals call it. Avocados, berries, tomatoes, cucumbers. We've seen some great movement. It started a few years ago, and it's accelerated in companies that are choosing Laredo as the distribution point. And not only that, for ripening and sorting and packaging, some great companies have invested in Laredo over the last few years, and we're going to continue to market that and leverage that, and become a center of expertise for the perishables industry.
Well, thank you, Gene, for this wonderful overview about Laredo and what life at the border is, but also what it can become and all the opportunities that can a rise once you're there. For people who are interested in contacting the EDC, what's the best way to reach out?
Our website's fairly easy. It's laredoedc.org. Um, and you can see our staff pictures and our bios and our phone numbers and our emails right there. It's a first-class website. We have some great economic indicators also on there where we keep track of many of the statistics that are helpful for businesses that are here and businesses that would like to consider come here also.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Gene, for talking to us today, and we hope to catch up with you soon
Thank you. Looking forward to some in-person meetings very soon
in Laredo.
in Laredo.